Arriving at the Religio-dome, Kenom knocked on the door. There was no answer. He knocked again. Finally a peephole opened and a gruff-voiced man behind the door said, "Go away!" Kenom held his badge up to the peephole and the door opened. Priest Leader Scott happened to be close by, and when Kenom entered, Patrolman Kenom, he said, "Good to see you again." Kenom looked over at the gruff-voiced man who was scurrying away. "I'm sorry about that," said Leader Scott, as he noticed Kenom's unhappiness. "We Plutons don't destroy defective brains as you do on Zimmnel. We give them electro-organic bodies and try to make them useful. We find them to be very loyal." Kenom felt a little uneasy. He was going to make a defense of Zimmnel's practice of destroying defective brains, but when he realized that any defense was impossible, he decided to let it drop. "That's quite all right," said Kenom. "I admired your compassion. I stopped by to tell you that we've found the person responsible for the blaster cap explosion." "Indeed," said Scott. "I admire your effectiveness as an investigator." "It was as you suspected, a God-fearing Flextoid with a hatred for your God-force beliefs," continued Kenom. "We have him in the confinement center." "I'm sorry to hear that, Patrolman," said Leader Scott. "I was hoping we were making some headway here." "Well," replied Kenom, "I'm sure this is an isolated case. I know all Flextoids don't feel as he does." "I hope you're right," said Scott. "What does Central Command plan to do with him?" "It hasn't been decided yet," answered Kenom. "I was hoping to get some input from you." Priest Leader Scott was surprised to hear this. Most decisions in the compound were made without consulting anyone, and never the Plutons. "What are the options?" he said, not knowing where to begin. "Well," said Kenom, he cannot be allowed to return to the general population. He would be an instant martyr. Then you would have some real religious problems." "I agreed," answered Leader Scott. "I suppose banishment to Flexton is the only real solution." "Yes," replied Kenom, but then there's always the possibility that he would be looked at as a martyr back on Flexton too. Being sent back to Flexton for attacking the Plutons would be a powerful tool. It could be used against you with great effectiveness. Over time, as word spread, this small incident would turn into something quite different than it was. A small blaster cap would become a bomb, and instead of no damage, there would have been many Plutons killed. That's the way hatred gains its momentum." "Very true," said Leader Scott. "But what is the alternative?" Kenom thought for a moment and said, "What would you think of this? What if he were assigned into your care here in the Religio-dome? He's not an evil person, just misguided. He's very good at electronic repair work, and I'm sure you can find him plenty of work to keep him occupied." Said Leader Scott, as he thought it over. "A very creative idea. Very creative indeed. Perhaps it would be beneficial to us to have a Flexton in our dome, particularly a God believer. We could very well learn something from him. He might help us learn how to break down the barrier that separates our beliefs." "Yes, this is a good idea, Patrolman Kenom, a very good idea." "Are you sure this won't be a problem?" asked Kenom. "Don't forget he's an organic. He is in the lower leb count." "No, not at all," said Leader Scott. "We mingle with low-lebbers all the time. We're all trained to do this. I can have him room with our doorman. He's also a low-leb count. They should get on nicely, as our doorman has little grasp of the God-force philosophy and never talks about it. We'll be able to bring him along slowly." "Fair enough," said Kenom. "Let's consider it done." Won't you have to check with Central Command first?" asked Leader Scott. "They may not think so highly of your idea." "That won't be necessary," replied Kenom. "I already have the authority to act in this matter." "Very well," said Leader Scott. "I will get things ready for our new guest." As Kenom was slipping his badge back in his pocket and starting to leave, Leader Scott said, "I couldn't help but notice that special patrolman badge you were holding. Is that the reason you can make this policy decision?" Kenom was taken by surprise by what he had heard. He thought that Leader Scott knew about priority patrolman orders and what authority came with them. He had forgotten that Plutons were new here on Ob. He stammered for a moment, then said, "Oh, this. It was given to me by the commander. I used it to open doors." They both had a good laugh and parted.